Shit, I think we were tripping.
Uber first saw the light of day in 2011. Within 6 years, it has changed the landscape of transportation from a single city, San Francisco, to 574 cities around the world today. It opened the gate to the world of the sharing economy, and despite its competitors and legal complications, for the greater part, Uber is extremely successful. So let's take a deeper look into what Uber has done to get the people around the world to use its service. Our main focus here is going to be on the riders more so than the drivers. We're going to try to answer the question, why the average rider hails an Uber as opposed to a traditional taxi when in need. Taxis haven't disappeared off the road, nor is it by chance that Uber has become a billion-dollar company. Uber is one thing to the riders and a completely different thing to drivers. Back in 2013, once Lyft started expanding nationally in America with its mission statement, "Your friend with a car," Uber differentiated itself with its new mission statement, "Everyone's private driver." The following statements affect the behavior of the service provider, the drivers, and the experience of the service users. It is widely accepted that Uber positions itself as more of a luxury and exclusive than Lyft, therefore in terms of marketing, targeting different customer segments. Let's go back to the mission statements, "Your friend with a car" versus "Everyone's private driver." As a rider, what would you expect from a service that claims the former? Your expectation would perhaps include an approachable driver who you can strike conversation with, a chill or fun ride with no special treatment or flares. You need a ride from point A to B, and there's a friend that's willing to do it for you for a couple of bucks. Now let's examine the latter. Your service expectation would indeed be different if you're getting a private driver, no? You want a safe, smooth, professional ride. You would like to remain relaxed and undisturbed, unless you want the driver's company or loud music to jam to. A prepared driver that's ready to help you charge your phone, offers you treats or water, and asks you if the music is alright. So, we administered a survey to see general opinions regarding the Uber brand. Despite 35% of our sample not knowing what Lyft is, 86% of the 65 participants correctly assigned "Everyone's private driver" as Uber's positioning statement. Only 18% incorrectly assigned it to being Lyft's slogan. 93.8% of our sample have used Uber services at least once, with the most recognized product line as Uber X, followed by Uber Pool and Uber Eats. Let's stop here for a second to examine why Uber X, Uber Pool, and Uber Eats were the most recognized services, because this also ties in with perception. Our survey respondents were all young adults who are mostly still students and live in metropolitan areas. With this demographic, although not representative of the entire population, Uber X, the standard, is obviously primarily recognized because it's offered in every city. Then there's Uber Pool, which students are most likely to use to save spendings because the first reason they said they would use Uber is late at night when public transportation is out of service. In place of public transportation, you're more likely to choose the affordable option Uber Pool, of course, if it's offered in your city. Lastly, Uber Eats is popularly recognized because these young adults are probably living busy lives as students or just getting used to the employee life. Some days they've had a long day, they don't have mom's cooking to return to, and they decide to deliver from Uber Eats. It is probable that the brand encounter or service experience of Uber has correctly navigated the respondents to the accurate brand mission statement. No matter the type of service used, the rides clearly delivered an experience that makes them feel like they've got a private driver. The company's brand management and marketing team deserve some recognition for being able to maintain this dominant perception of Uber services among customers. Now on to brand personality. When asked to list 3 adjectives to describe Uber, the most repeated responses included fast, effective, and efficient, along with cheap, convenient, and easy. Let's first analyze fast, effective, and efficient. These traits describe a sense of urgency and competitiveness, anchoring to a type A personality. They assure riders that they are always on, always available, that they are always smarter than a taxi, and that Uber is always the ride you want. Sounds confident, competitive, aggressive? Proof of the type A personality the brand establishes itself as. Uber's innovative technology contains attributes that appeal to consumers with type A personality as well. More precisely, 43% of respondents described Uber as fast, 38% convenient, and 29% cheap. All traits that are especially important to type A people. This might explain why the majority of our survey participants attached the label active to Uber riders rather than lazy. Uber's main customers tend to be active, outgoing individuals who thrive on speed, efficiency, and effectiveness, or at least they hope to be viewed as that way. Assuming that Uber is a luxury brand, it can explain the implications of consumer behavior regarding this booming transportation system. First, a brief look at consumer perception of luxury. A huge body of academic research points to the explanation that people consume luxury goods and services for brand identification, self-concept, lifestyle incorporation, and symbolism. In broader terms, the psychogenic need is a strong motivating factor for consumers to purchase at higher prices. Last year, the PEW Research Foundation's poll concluded that the majority of Uber passengers are educated, affluent, urban, young Americans. So our group extended this to, what do young Uber riders think a typical Uber rider is like? In other words, what group of consumers are they identifying themselves with? Responses brought us down to educated, urban, trendy, fairly affluent, active, tech-savvy, laid-back student or employed young adult. This group sounds fairly agreeable for millennials to be a part of, doesn't it? If group identity and feeling a sense of belonging can be acquired through the purchase of a product, we can also explain this consumer behavior through Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs. His third level of the pyramid, belongingness needs. Psychologists Roy F. Baumeister and Mark R. Leary are renowned for their research that the need to belong is a fundamental human motivation, extending beyond Maslow's argument that places the need after physiological and safety needs. Experiments have shed light on the fact that forming social bonds is relatively easy, with merely random assignment being enough to create a sense of social attachment. Having the Uber app, being able to ride Uber with friends, being able to share their experience of using Uber services are all factors that create a sense of identity. If you consume the good, you're part of this group of young and trendy middle class, partially satisfying your psychogenic needs. Stop here a moment. But we mentioned that one of the most frequently used adjectives for Uber was cheap. Now, cheap and luxury don't go hand in hand, right? This may be because in most cities, Uber rides are cheaper than taxi rides, for example, right here in Paris. Added on top, the newer Uber Pool offers more competitive prices for a service that promises everyone's private driver. There is a study from 2015 carried out by a researcher regarding consumer behavior on metered taxi services. Common problems encountered for the average consumer on a traditional taxi include safety, attitude and manner of taxi drivers, such as denying rides in preference for specific routes, taking detours, driving recklessly, or overcharging the fare. Do these sound familiar? I'm sure if you're a regular taxi user, you've encountered at least one of these problems. From our research, here are the top 3 reasons that people would use Uber's transportation services. Number 1, late at night or when public transportation is out of service. 2, in substitute of a taxi. 3, on my way to a party or back. Findings by Tichara Tanasa's study that the major reason for service was comfort aligns with her finding that 86% of participants agree that Uber is a form of transportation that is often more convenient than a cab. These reasons all line up. Uber has done a magnificent job at fixing all the frustrations one feels when trying to catch a cab late at night, when it's most frequent for drivers to deny rides by destination, drive recklessly, and/or charge a cheated fare. Prices are transparent, drivers and their vehicles are identified and rated, and you don't need to explain where your destination is. Having this quality of reliability speeds up the consumer's decision-making process when hailing an Uber instead of searching for a cab. Despite its omnipresence, the company has experienced varying success across cities. For example, in the US, Uber is remembered as an affordable yet luxurious alternative that has become a staple in many people's lives. In South Korea, however, it is also remembered as a luxury, but Uber first entered the market with legal complications, making it a black market and a bit sketchy. Uber has since become legitimate, but the company is still experiencing obstacles due to the initially formed attitudes. Moreover, Uber is all about being fast and convenient, but in Korea, for years there have already been convenient methods to hail cabs. But you want a private driver? They've also had mobile taxis for decades. It is inevitably difficult to overcome the alternatives that are more easily recalled from consumers' memories. Nonetheless, Uber has clever ways of managing customer relationships through its feedback system. When you're just about to forget your Uber ride, you check your email and you have a digital receipt as well as an opportunity to rate your driver. This post-purchase consumer engagement is likely to decrease cognitive dissonance. Say you gave your driver a 5-star because you have no reason to give him a 3. You would persuade yourself your ride was satisfying. This is our consumer behavior analysis of why millions of people are calling Ubers instead of taking a cab off the streets. Uber continues to invest in R&D. Let us see for ourselves how successful it will be.